So, Emma, what are we chit-chatting about today?
We are chit-chatting about summer holidays. Sorry, I've already forgotten. I was going to say parenting while away from home.
This episode is called Travel Nightmares. Crawl into the pop-up tent with us. We can never get it back in the bag. Welcome back to the Podcraft. It's time to unwind, take a break from the crying. That could be you or the baby.
Or the screaming also could be you or the baby.
And join in with our honest chat about parenting life as we do a craft activity. We're your co-hosts for today.
Generally, normally.
Yeah, nothing's changed. I'm Elliot. I'm the one that doesn't drink nearly enough water.
Yeah, and I'm Emma, and I drink enough water for everybody.
Been a bit of a heat wave here recently.
It has.
And so I'm getting lots of headaches because typically I'm
you don't drink enough.
Very bad at staying hydrated. Not a problem for you?
No, every time we have to go for a scan, FYI, pregnant, never have to bother drinking more water than normal because that's just how much water I drink on a normal basis.
We've got lots and lots to chat about today. As usual, I've probably picked a massive topic. Bitten off more than I can
probably
chew.
Far too vast.
Yeah, we won't cover everything, but that's the way we like to do things. So we'll jump into that soon enough. I just thought I'd share. Last night I was doing a little arts and craft for the podcast. If you don't know, you can follow us along on YouTube, and every episode watch a little thing we're doing, a little arty thing, a crafty thing. We're quite broad with our definition of what counts, but if you're into that, you can watch along.
Yeah, so the last one, I made your birthday cake. If you admire it, it's because Lily picked the theme of Spider-Man and Frozen together. Just FYI, that wasn't Elliot's choice of cake.
But yeah, the craft I did last night, I did a typical mistake by me, which was thinking, I'll just sit down for an hour and film myself doing a little activity. Turned out, took way longer. It was a much bigger task than I expected. I've done barely a quarter of it. I'll be back to that multiple nights.
So enjoy. There'll probably be one video of him, but just appreciate that's hours of work.
He'll be sped up massively. Beep, bop, 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 beep. It's parenting achievement time, the segment of the show where we share a parenting fail or a funny story or just, the level of parenting we've reached that's very relatable. You've noticed I've given up on doing the actual sound effect. Yeah. That was far too much work. I can't be going on with that.
I like your robot noise, though. Beep, beep, bop, bop.
Yeah, well, every time I keep forgetting what the achievement unlocked sound effect sounds like. And so I just go with whatever comes to my head.
Let's go with the robot. I like it.
I thought maybe we could share and chat a bit today about habits which we no longer need to do but are hard to give up once you've started them with children. And so you kind of get into a routine of doing something and then you kind of find yourself one day when it's completely unnecessary still doing those things, and it's like, why am I doing this? So a couple of examples I thought of. I don't know if you've got any others that you might like to share. One of them is, I remember this was quite a while ago now when we had a stairgate on the stairs.
Oh yeah.
And it comes to a point where you don't really need it anymore. Lily was very capable. And so we took the stairgates off the top and the bottom. And then I found for like weeks later, I would like pause at the bottom of the stairs.
I remember us discussing it. It's like we were acting like there was an invisible stairgate.
Like a phantom stairgate.
We'd always wait almost and go, oh no, I can just walk straight up.
Just do it. It was such a revelation. And like I'd be coming downstairs or coming around the door and I'd just stop like mid-step and be like, oh, I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah. It's like your body must have muscle memory where it's like, well, we stop now and we do something to get up the stairs.
The other one I thought of, which kind of ties a little bit into some of what we'll talk about later, was around kind of food and meal times. You kind of get into a habit of eating when toddlers eat.
Yeah.
And so it's normally like a very early lunch and a very early tea.
Yeah.
And then you find Lily's like away at nursery or something.
So those days you could kind of do what you wanted.
We could go back to normal. But for some reason, you get hungry at like 11 o'clock. You're like, well, I better have lunch.
Yeah, no, we're stuck in the toddler pattern now.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't matter when she's like at nursery, because she is like breakfast, lunch and dinner there.
Yeah. It's really ruined going out for meals.
It has.
Or like going out on evening
Or socialising.
Yeah.
People are always like, oh, should we meet at 1? And we're like, well, we'll have eaten.
It's like 2 hours past our meal time.
We could maybe have a snack with you. Then I feel like the other people are like, well, I don't want to order a lunch if you're not having lunch. Like, it just makes it awkward.
Yeah. So it's like a parenting achievement of like, I've become my child. I basically just do whatever they do.
Yeah, we've developed too much into just adapting.
Any other examples you can think of things that habits that are hard to shake?
Not really. I think sometimes I still act like she's a lot smaller than she is. So I'm like, come here, I'll help you put your shoes on. And she goes, Lily can do it. And I'm like, of course you can. Of course you can put your own shoes on. And admittedly, she's not good with laces, but she's still adamant that she will do it. And sometimes I need to help. But often she's good because she's quite independent sometimes, that she'll be like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to help me? Perfectly capable, Mum.
Again, it's kind of like muscle memory, isn't it? I have that I always like pick her up to put her in the car seat.
Yes.
And like she's now perfectly capable of climbing up into the car and getting in her seat. I have to strap her in. Yeah. But, she can get in and out fine herself. But I still have that kind of like...
You're like, well, we pick them up and put them in. Yeah.
So, yeah. Things just constantly change as parents. They do. And they just...
Got to adapt.
Never anything stays the same. And you just kind of, sometimes find yourself going, why am I doing this?
I do need to do that.
If you have a moment where you've, this week or whenever it's been, when you're listening to this and you've had something where you've paused and gone, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Let us know. Get in touch. We'd love to hear your parenting achievement, parenting fail, funny story. Find us somewhere online. Particularly every week I share on our Instagram stories a little, question to get your responses about parenting stories and
your
fails.
noggins working.
Yep, so you can feed in that way particularly if you'd like, and then we'll mention it on a show.
Yep.
And stay tuned till the end of this episode and we'll share feedback and comments and stories that people have sent us. There's some particularly good ones.
Oh.
Yeah, so stay tuned. I can recommend them. Keep swimming through that mountain of Lego and let's get chatting about the summer holidays, about family holidays, about travelling.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot to get involved with here. I should have maybe broken it down into multiple episodes, but hey-ho, that's it. I've done it now.
I'm sure at a later date we can revisit if we feel like we haven't done something fully, given something fully justice. Is that a phrase?
Fully justice. That's
the justice it deserves.
Yeah. If you're listening to this when it comes out, well, even that probably is not true, actually. At the time of recording, we're in the first week of the summer holidays, and so this seemed like a good topic to kind of cover. And I recognise that, not everyone goes away during the summer holidays. That's perfectly fine. We're not actually. This year. We're not going away. So shall we start with, I thought, kind of travel first, and then move on to like the actual parenting when you're on holiday, considering that kind of is the chronological order of what happens. You
normally travel to get there.
Travel to get somewhere, don't you?
That's a good point. If you've a regular listener, you will know Lily's not a good.
I mean, Lily's not a good traveller all round, I would say. In general, not a good traveller. I'd say
the car's her least favourite, realistically now.
Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Definitely. We'll come to some stories about that in a second. And then, of course, like train, we've tried doing some trains and some long train trips because, again, we were trying to avoid the car because we struggle so much. And then, obviously, like going abroad on a plane. We've not tried boats, I don't think.
No,
Have we been anywhere on a boat?
We haven't tried boats.
No. What are there any other means of transport? I mean, Lily likes buses, but we've never been like away on a big, long bus trip, coach trip.
Well, it's like we've been on boats, but not far. Like we've been on little cruisy things, you know, you go around a town or something.
As often I always forget to explain, a misconception when I say like Lily's not good at travelling. I think a lot of people jump to the conclusion that Lily's car sick.
Yeah, it's not.
And I know that's a challenge a lot of people do have, but that's not what
No.
we
What we struggle with.
Lily's actually fine in a car. She's not car sick. She's not. She just gets very grumpy
and bored, and then she just
hates it.
Cries and screams. We've managed. It used to be half an hour.
Yeah.
We now manage an hour comfortably. She doesn't get too upset.
Yeah. And when we're meeting upset, I mean, she will start screaming until we stop and get out the car.
Yeah.
And like,
we have to take a break.
Fortunately, we've gone through the phase now, but we went through a long, long time where she would like try and get out of the car seat.
Yeah.
And she's very successful at getting out of the car seat. So like once you cross that threshold, half an hour, like you couldn't just keep going.
No. Because we even got extra strappy things.
Yeah.
But she's like a octopus. Like she could somehow, even if it was the tightest car seat, she could somehow still wiggle. I think it's the pure rage she has. She could somehow wriggle her hand out.
It's a good way to describe it. She has pure rage. It's just car rage.
It's car rage.
That's what it is. I don't know what caused it. I think we've mentioned before, like, possibly our theory is that, you know, being a lockdown baby and growing
we didn't
up,
go anywhere,
we
really.
didn't really go anywhere during pregnancy and in the very early, and so she just wasn't that used to cars, and so she just finds it she hates being confined and strapped in.
Hates being confined. So I say it's got better.
Yep. It's still so yeah. The tricky bit is though, either we have the option of holidaying somewhere that's within an hour car journey of our house,
which seems like a waste.
Yeah. Or, you know, even to get to my parents down south, it's 4.5 hour drive. And to get to a holiday destination, normally we're looking at, you know, about 3 hours.
3 hours,
Me and you, we love Scotland. We'd love to go
We
back.
haven't been with Lily because it's too far.
It's too far. Like, before we had children, we used to go to Scotland
every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
We loved it. But we can't get there. We can't make it.
It's too far. We'd have to, it'd take 2 days. We'd have to stop so often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people say if you tried travelling at night. We have.
Yeah, we've tried at night.
It's been mildly successful, but the problem is if she loses it at night, it's horrendous because then she hasn't got as much sleep as she's meant to. So it's like a risky game.
She likes sleeping in her bed. She's not one that naturally sleeps in the car.
No.
I know a lot of children.
Yeah, she doesn't naturally go to sleep. No.
The issue with the car is both a positive and a negative. Often it sends kids to sleep, which is good for travelling, but then maybe not so good for night times. But at least you can deal with that.
Yeah.
But Lily doesn't sleep in the car. Sometimes works.
Sometimes does.
Sometimes backfires.
I thought people are going to go, hey, have you tried travelling at night? And I'd be like, yes, we have.
Yeah. I mean, if you have tips, please do send them. I mean, we might go, we've tried that. Doesn't work. But I'd still love to hear them.
Yeah.
It'd be good to know.
I know this is bad parenting, but she's getting more into watching things now. So I'm hoping
it's getting easier because as she gets older, she can engage and absorb things. Like she can see stuff out the window. We chat about what animals can you see. Yeah.
And this is what I sometimes do. If she's getting a bit whiny, I'll pretend I've seen something very exciting outside, like a giraffe. Which once again, it's lying, but it keeps her entertained trying to look for it.
When she was, a baby, kind of under one or so, before she was properly a toddler, just car journeys used to be you singing incessantly.
Oh, incessantly. This is when we say she's never liked cars.
Yeah, like not even when she was little. Even then, even with you singing incessantly, like she would still not be happy. She'd often still be crying the whole time. Yeah. But it would just keep her on the verge of not having that
complete
that rage.
meltdown. Yeah, I remember at the end I'd think I was gonna go crazy. You know, you think something so much, you go, I don't even know if these are the words anymore. Like I think I'm losing it. I can't keep singing. But there'd be certain songs that seem to comfort her more, so you just keep going with them. Yeah.
You can maybe understand now why we've called this episode Travel Nightmares. Because I think
I think it might make people feel better.
Yeah. I think one of the big, the huge challenges for us in terms of holidays is this travel element. Just getting to where we're going.
To where you want to go.
massive problem for us.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the other modes of transport, one of the tips we had, I think we found maybe on TikTok.
Yes.
Maybe someone sent it to us. I can't remember, but has been mildly successful. Is having presents. So we wrap up gifts for her to open like every 15 minutes in the car.
We don't just waste money. We generally wrap up toys that she hasn't seen for a while.
Again, if you've listened to any of our past episodes, you'll know, in terms of consumerism and eco stuff.
Well, and we're not made of money.
And literally money. We're kind of keen to not. Lily does have a lot of toys, we do try and reduce.
One of my jobs today, I'm going to go downstairs and just try and go through and get rid of some.
I tend to go and wrap up presents, often ones that have been in the cupboard and haven't been on rotation for a while, kind of maybe a bit fresher, and I wrap them up in wrapping paper.
Yeah.
And then in the car we can hand a gift so you can
and we'll often put 2 new items. Normally it's like a colouring book because that's cheap.
Yeah.
Just so she has the element of it could be.
Yeah.
a new thing.
Yeah. And that's been mildly successful. Again, it wouldn't have worked as a baby, but now she's a toddler.
Yeah. It does work better.
Yeah. And that's how we can get up to an hour.
Yes.
I mean, the number of presents we need, if we're trying to get, on a 3-4 hour journey, you're giving her a present every 10-15 minutes.
She keeps going, come another one now, and you sat there like,
these are going to last the whole journey.
The whole journey.
Just play with what you've got, please.
She didn't do too bad when we went to Wales, so this was our recent holiday. But we stopped off somewhere, didn't we, for quite a while? Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
We'll get to that.
We'll talk about that holiday a bit more in depth in a minute. But having a break's pretty good in the middle.
So what we often do if we're visiting friends, we try and find a touristy location halfway to spend maybe
most of the day.
Yeah, like 2-3 hours.
We'll do an hour and a half
drive
to get there, then spend 3-4 hours at a tourist attraction, and then do the rest of the journey.
But that does work. So if you have a similar toddler to us, try and find. This is quite middle class, but we're National Trust members, so any National Trust place handy.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
We've also been to train museum things halfway to places.
Yeah, or just soft play centres. Or even just a pub for lunch.
Yeah,
can be quite a good distraction if you spend long enough there.
Yeah,
I suppose with all travelling, but particularly in the car, just stocking up massively on snacks and drinks.
Yeah, snacks and drinks.
Normally I have a huge bag with us.
Yeah.
That's okay, well, and then so some of the other things we've tried is doing a train journey, because then that avoids the need to be in the car, which has been mildly successful because she doesn't have to be strapped in.
And she likes train. Weirdly enough, I think part of it's because she likes Thomas. She feels like she's living the programme or the book. But
the big issue here is, of course, the elephant in the room, our UK train system.
Yeah.
Which is pretty poor.
And it's pretty expensive.
Yeah. So it costs a lot more money typically than for us to drive.
And the trains aren't reliable.
They're not reliable. And then, we did that big trip down for my dad's 80th birthday, which was down south, and they, obviously they really wanted us to be there, and we put a lot of effort into getting there, because we were we can't drive, because it was going to be a 6-hour journey.
And we were like, we'll never get there.
We just won't get. So we did. We stayed overnight halfway. We did 3 different trains.
Yeah.
But even then, that was tough.
It was. I mean, she didn't lose it. It was more, I think, us ourselves. It was very hot on the trains.
Well, it was
and you had to
packed.
It was packed.
Do you remember we were sat on the floor in a corridor with Lily, and it's just this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
This is what I'm like.
Why are we doing this?
She coped very well with the train, but it wasn't a pleasant journey.
Yeah. And I hated it because I get a bit train sick.
Yeah, he doesn't do. This is probably, he doesn't do well with trains.
I'm not a great train traveller. I find it
you're not great with timetables and stuff. Whereas I don't mind. I'm quite used to all that. But it still wasn't because certain trains get cancelled. Then you're like, oh right, so we're gonna have to get this train. It takes a lot more brain work to work out how you're getting places. And theoretically, if the system worked fine, you wouldn't have any of these problems. But we found both ways travelling. I think we encountered problems both ways. So
I mean, maybe with a new government, trains might improve.
Well, I think they're going to renationalise them, so I'm hoping that helps.
There we go. Fingers crossed.
We'll see. If this podcast we're still doing it 3 years, we might go, oh yeah, it's not worked.
Yeah. Our big thing really is we are majorly hoping that a new sibling for Lily is going to really help with all this travel issue, that she will be distracted having someone else. And then the big one, plane travel. If you thought cars were bad for us, planes, we have basically abandoned plane travel for the last
But she's now great.
Well, she was when you went with her.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And you went first class, all paid for expenses trip.
By my work.
Yeah.
But she was good when we went to Amsterdam. Well, this is also, she's a bit older, so I don't know if she'd also just deal better with planes anyway. But the first plane trip we went on, she actually wasn't bad on the way there. Was that true?
Well, looking back, I think we would say it was okay. At the time, we found it difficult. But of course, since we've had way worse experiences. So again, I think a lot of people struggle with plane travel, like, again, with like sickness.
Yeah.
We know a lot of people where they've been sick on planes and stuff.
And once again,
that wasn't an issue we encountered. But when we first went on holiday, she was 1. We went abroad.
And that wasn't too bad.
Well, yeah. She didn't like being sat on your knee particularly.
No.
We tried to do a nighttime flight so she could sleep.
Yes.
It was a 3-hour trip. And like you say, it wasn't too bad, but she really struggled to go to sleep.
Well, it's because the lights were still on.
Oh, no, they dimmed them for takeoff and landing.
That was it, yeah.
And we were like, oh, this is great. It could stay like this. And then once we were up in the air, all the lights came back on and we were like,
Oh, great.
Once again, a lot of kids maybe would just sleep through it. But
yeah.
Lily, even at 1, was
like the lights off. I mean, forced to be strapped onto this person.
But then later, when she was 1.5 or so, we did a trip to Disneyland for your 30th birthday.
Oh, yes, we did, yeah.
And to see your sisters.
Oh, yeah. That was...
Of course, your sister in France, Becky, lives in Paris, and we went to see her.
Yeah.
But that trip was what really put us off plane travel.
That was horrific. It was so bad.
It was bad on the way there. Again, we were just at that age where she couldn't have her own seat. Yeah. I mean, you could say, fortunate we didn't have to pay for another seat.
But yeah, definitely in hindsight, she'd have done better with her own seat.
She hated being strapped to you. And
she didn't have enough room. And her legs are quite long. And she just wanted to get off the plane.
Just hated it.
She kept trying to find our passports, because even at 1.5, she understood we had them to get on the plane.
Yeah.
So she kept trying to find our passports and grab them and basically run off screaming. But I'm not kidding. The flight's like an hour. The whole hour, she was hysterical.
Yeah.
Like...
And we talked about that rage in the car. It was like that, but more on a plane.
And public.
Yeah.
Everybody has to see it.
She was like, I can't remember how we described it. She was like she was possessed by a demon. She was like writhing all over you. She's like throwing herself about. Her face was red. From screaming. Yeah.
I kept thinking that she's going to have a huge rash because she's so hot.
Yeah.
She's so angry.
Yeah. She'd be like clawing at the belt on her to try and get it off. And just like...
And the staff, I want to say, was so nice.
And the passengers were nice as well.
Nobody was mean. Everybody kept going, oh... I think also they could see we were actively going, why don't we try Disney? Why don't we watch something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody even was like, the poor woman beside us.
Yeah.
At one point, I think she ordered like 3 vodkas, and I really felt like being like, "Would you like me to pay for these vodkas? Because I feel like we've driven you to drink.
Yeah.
Because this can't be a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And I remember I kept apologising, and she kept saying it was fine, but I really think the drinking was our fault. Oh, yeah, that was horrendous. There was a lovely woman opposite us who'd been trying to help us.
Yeah.
And which is very good. She's very tenacious. So we've picked up this phrase now. Whenever Lily's got completely lost it, we go, well, she's very tenacious.
Yeah.
That's a positive. Yeah. I remember we met Becky and she said we looked like broken people.
Yeah.
Like they came to pick us up from the airport and she said me and Ellie looked really pale.
Yeah.
And like we'd been through like some kind of trauma. And I remember at the time going to it, I don't know how we're going to get home because I can't go through that again.
Yeah.
And Becky was like, what do you mean? I said, I don't know if I can get a flight back. I don't know if I can do it.
And would you know, the flight back was even worse.
Even worse.
I took some videos on the way back, which I did feel guilty about. You were sat there trying to do this and like I was videoing it. But
There's nothing you could do.
yeah, exactly. Like she didn't really want me either.
No. We tried switching, but she was unbelievably, if you saw these videos, you wouldn't believe she could be worse. But she was worse once she was handed to Elliot. So yeah, just horrendous.
Yeah. After that, I was like, we're now travelling abroad again. But we have been abroad again since then, and it has got a lot better.
Honestly, I think since she's been in her own seat, she's actually been
basically
fine.
Yeah. Once she had her own seat, she was very happy.
Yeah.
But we still have this worry in the back of our mind.
It's all like anxiety that she'll suddenly lose it again.
So we try to keep plane trips pretty short.
Yeah.
We've not attempted anything over an hour yet.
We're thinking next year we might try a 2-hour trip.
Yeah. See how it goes.
I think luckily she's getting to a better age.
And our main tip for all of this really is take someone with you.
Yeah, don't go just as a family.
Get a grandparent,
Yeah.
a friend, and go with another
family.
You know, go with families, cousins and siblings. Or I mean, I really like us going as just a little family unit, but it makes it so much more difficult.
It does.
Just having someone else there to distract, to give you a break from parenting now and again, to help out, it just really helps. Oodalally. I don't know how to begin.
You Robin Hood.
You can get more involved with our Don't Wake the Baby community in the YouTube comments or over on Instagram, both of which are at Don't Wake the Baby _podcast. Our real aim is to kind of connect with all of you out there, other parents, particularly around Yorkshire, but wherever you're listening from. So we'd love to hear from you and chat. This is an ongoing conversation, a discussion starter. Get involved directly in our Facebook group chats, or new for this series, we're experimenting with a Discord server which does exactly the same thing, where you can chat with the rest of our community, with the people that are there, if you prefer that over Facebook.
Yep.
So you can pick what works best for you. Quite happy if you just want to listen along and engage with us out there in the unknown and not interact with us. But do subscribe, leave us a review, click all the buttons, give us some negative feedback, do whatever you want to do. Feed the algorithm so that we can keep growing and developing. We're an ad-free podcast, sort of. Other than this little segment in the middle where we just like take a moment to kind of share why we're doing this. But we don't have a sponsor. We're not like making money from the show. But we are supported by the Methodist Church because, we're Christians. But we're not really like religious churchy people, churchgoers. What do you reckon? Would you describe your spirituality? Put you on the spot, Emma.
I think I would say I'm a very liberal Christian.
Yeah.
So basically, we don't have any fire damnation in our in our lives or judgment.
Yeah, that's it. I think kind of our faith stuff is a bit like our parenting. We're kind of very non-judgmental.
Yeah.
We don't really mind what you believe or anything. It's more interested in how you act.
Yeah, I think we're very much whatever works for you works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you've got like a different belief system that works just as well for you, then you do that.
And do the best you can. Just deal with each day as it comes in your faith and in your parenting.
Yep.
I think the main thing for me is just, like being kind to people. So, this is just us chatting away because we like doing it, and it's something to offer you to get us through the sleepless nights. And I hope it's helpful. Find out more about what we're up to, about getting involved, the community, how you can find out more about our faith and spirituality, or all the stuff you can find on our webpage.
Ta-da!
Oodalally. I think this is accurate.
I'll correct you if it's wrong.
Yeah, that's it. Or it could be like a quiz. What was the first holiday we did? Can you remember?
I think we went to...
It's difficult to define sometimes.
Bakewell?
Yeah, that's it. So that was around 6 weeks, when Lily was 6 weeks old.
Yeah, she was little.
Was very early on. When Lily was about a year, we went to Crete which again we've covered a little bit in another episode when we talked about potty training, because that was just when we were getting fully potty trained.
Fully potty trained,
if you don't know, we did very early potty training. And then about half a year later, in kind of the January of the following year, so I suppose not summer holidays, but it was a big trip for us. We did a Disneyland trip.
We did, yeah.
And then in the summer that year, when Lily was just turned 2, we did a couple of things, I think. Earlier in the summer, we did a trip with my parents to Blackpool.
Oh, yes, we did, yeah.
Which is one where we did a long train journey.
We did.
To get there. And
that wasn't too bad, actually, the train to Blackpool. Well, it's not as far as we went down south, was it?
Yeah. The big one there was we had the experience of doing a British holiday. Therefore, it was terribly wet.
It was really bad weather, very windy, very rainy. To the people who don't know, it's a seaside town. So our main reason for being there, we couldn't really do.
A beach holiday in the wet. That's what it's like in the UK.
She liked the funny arcadey bits though.
Yeah. And then sometime around then, I think it was late summer, I can't really remember, we did a trip to Amsterdam.
Yes.
It's sounding like we're doing a lot of holidays, but actually, we're not made of money. That trip actually was a work trip for
my
you
work trip
that
for
me
me.
and Lily tagged along with.
Yeah.
And it's actually was it a weekend?
It's like a long weekend, 3 days.
Yeah. And Disneyland as well was like a weekend. Yeah. Like it wasn't a whole week. Very expensive weekend. But,
very expensive, yeah. Disneyland was a very expensive weekend.
And then at the kind of Christmas time when Lily was about 2.5, you did another work paid for trip to Paris.
So if people don't know, my office is Paris based.
Yeah.
So for their Christmas party, they always pay for everybody to go over.
Yeah. And you during COVID times, you didn't do a lot of traveling.
We didn't.
Obviously.
So they basically had a lot of. At the minute, they've got a lot of funds.
Yeah. So you've done quite a lot of traveling recently, and were able to take Lily with you on that occasion. So that wasn't a family holiday, and it wasn't a summer holiday, but it was a trip abroad, and you flew, and I think it's kind of counted like a. Then we come to this year where Lily's 3. And it's been a bit more toned down this year.
Yeah.
We've done one family trip to Conway in North Wales, and we drove there. And we've not really done anything else. We've done a little bit of camping in the garden.
Yeah, camping in the garden.
But that's about it.
Yeah, we have no plans for the rest of this year to go anywhere. We're hoping next year it's going to be Elliot's 30th. So we've booked it's more like it's another British holiday. And maybe we'll try and go abroad properly, but we'll see when we get there how we're all doing.
I think kind of unpopular opinion probably is that we are pretty strict at sticking to schedules and structures.
That's
even
true.
when we're away.
Yeah.
So to some extent rules go out the window. But
definitely to do with food.
Yeah.
So I was talking to one of my friends recently and she said how she was talking to one of her friends. They're like, oh, yeah, it's been terrible. My kids had 2 ice creams this week while we've been on holiday. And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, that was every day. And I said, oh, multiple times a day. When we're on holiday, I really, because they're in a new place, I'm like, it's a holiday. I don't care if you want to have an ice cream, 3-4 times a day. It's holiday. I'm not going to say you have to eat certain things. But with regards to schedule, we are quite strict because she gets quite grumpy if she's not on her schedule.
Lily's always been quite a routine orientated child and doesn't really do well being taken out of that.
But we're both quite routine orientated people.
We are. It's true. We're not spontaneous. We're not exciting. We stick to our boring lives.
We like our routines.
Yeah. So we don't really flex on things like nap times and bedtime, the general meal times and structure of the day.
Yeah.
We try to keep, even when we move into different time zones abroad.
Yeah, we try and keep on British time.
We basically stay on British time.
That is true because my sister thought it was really. This is shout out to Becky. She got me when we were in France. She was like, you could flex it by an hour, and then she saw we really tried to keep Lily up. To eat slightly later with everybody when we're all in France, and she saw how upset Lily was getting to it. I see why you kind of just stick to it. I was like, yeah, because she wasn't badly behaved, but she was just crying, like just sat sobbing because she wanted to go to bed. And I was like, yeah, she doesn't do well going out of the routine. And I think it's hard sometimes because other kids are fine.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to understand. But when you go, no, she has to, like, she's really thinged about going to bed at a certain time. And
holidays can be quite, exhausting.
Yeah.
Just because, you're in a new place, there's so much stimulation, you're doing stuff all day. There's a temptation, to just go out and pack every day that you're away with activities and make the most of it. But it can make your life miserable.
Yeah.
I think, we tend to keep it fairly relaxed.
Well, this is, we've also learned, this wasn't about the Welsh holiday, but I know some people go, it's very uncultured, but we really have grown to like all-inclusive holidays where you don't really have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like, people are like, oh, well, what's the point of going? And for us, it is the weather, because, we're British, it's not good weather here. And it's nice to go somewhere else and have a beautiful pool. And I know people are like, you don't see any of the culture. I'm like, you know what? We don't really.
Yeah.
But what's easy with a kid is that there's going to be entertainment and there's going to be a pool and where everything is. And you don't, unless you really want to go on a trip, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You could just stay in this little zone and it's easy. And I know people don't like that, but I'm just saying. But like, holidays abroad where we plan it, this is now going to be our future for the next probably 5 years.
Yeah.
Because that's what's easy and doable.
Yeah. Well, as we're talking about it, why don't we transition into a little segment that I was going to bring up later. It's a return to a segment that we used to have a while ago.
What is this segment? I'm intrigued.
So, what time is it? It's the 90s. So, throwback to when we were young and chatting just briefly in the middle here about maybe how things look different when we were growing up. Because we were kind of into that area already with what you were talking about. So, for me growing up, we really didn't do a lot of all-inclusive or mass tourism. We'd we did a lot of British holidays and I did a lot of camping.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of adult holidays and like city breaks and cultural stuff where we'd walk around and So a very different experience.
We didn't have much money, so we used to often go caravanning in Wales, so you could go to a caravan park. And as a kid, it was still excellent. So this one, I know people are like, we want to do all these ambitious things, but as a child, going on any holiday is just fun.
Yeah, definitely. Makes memories.
Yeah, so we would just go to holidays in Wales. If anyone knows, I don't know if they exist anymore, it was like Bradley Bears. And we'd go to different Bradley Bear locations.
Yeah.
But as a child, that was really fun.
Well, it's true, because we did quite a lot of abroad holidays and travelled quite a bit. But actually, what I remember most was like our camping trips in Cornwall and the Lake District where we went with friends and, we did very simple things, but it's very memorable.
Very memorable.
Just, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
And then, because we didn't travel abroad, I think, till we were about 11.
Yeah.
And then we did go, the first holiday we did wasn't all-inclusive because I don't know if they were that big a thing back then.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? Things have changed so much. Like, I was thinking about how the debate these days for us is about, do we go self-catering or do we go all-inclusive or to a hotel,
and honestly,
a resort?
Looking at recently is often cheaper just to go all-inclusive.
Yeah, but then the flexibility of self-catering can be quite,
And you're not stuck to their meal times. So
in our Wales holiday, I think when we do British holidays, we tend to do self-catering.
Yes, we do.
Whereas when we go abroad, we tend to do. But I was thinking about when I was growing up. Airbnb wasn't a thing.
No.
So of course we always went to hotels.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure self-catering was a thing, but we just didn't.
No,
really
we never went self-catering anywhere.
that.
Well, no, we did, but this is again when we did very cheap holidays abroad. It'd be like Portugal, and we'd have like a little flat.
Right.
And you'd but I think we only did that once, and then we kind of discovered all-inclusive. We all learnt to pack very small.
Oh yeah, this was on my.
So most of the time I can travel just with hand luggage, So it was a big adjustment when we had Lily. You were like, oh my goodness, we've got so much stuff to bring.
It is crazy, isn't it? When you have kids, the amount of stuff there is to take.
Because their clothes aren't that big.
Yeah.
And it's getting easier now. I mean, once we have the next one, it'll be a whole load of stuff again. But she's got to the age now where it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But it's still just...
We always struggle with this. I mean, me growing up, my parents and my family, we do not do things by halves.
No. They pack the kitchen sink. Yeah, they pack everything you could ever need.
So, like, I'm really not used to packing light. No. So it's... And to be fair, my excuse is that I'm big.
You are big.
Lily and Emma are quite small. Like, your leggings, for example, you roll up and they become like the size of a pair of socks. And I'm like, well, of course you can fit them in like hand luggage. If I try and fold my jeans up, they take up so much space.
They're never going to be that little.
Let alone like shoes and things. Just So normally we're going away and Lily and Emma have
a hand luggage
joint
bag each.
Case.
A joint case and 2 hand luggage bags.
And normally. Like they have less stuff than just me.
Yeah.
This is one of the things where I prefer like car trips. One of the challenges of train travel is you do have to pack, very economically. With the car, you can just shove a load of stuff in.
Yeah, it's true.
And like you say, when they're young babies, there's so much stuff. Like just trying to fit pushchairs and prams.
Or even like all the nappies in.
Yeah.
Because you don't know often where the shop will be, what size, so you kind of have to take nappies enough for a week. And when they're little, that's a lot of nappies.
And I think one of the things that has changed since the 90s, it seems to me anyway, is like planes used to like give you quite a lot of allowance for baggage, and you got, the overhead lockers and stuff included. Nowadays, they're like cutting down on it. They're like, you can't bring anything with you. You have to pay for it.
If you want to take a bit of a bigger, not a suitcase, a bigger bag into hand luggage, they're like, got to pay for that.
Yeah. So while we're in the 90s, I have a question for you.
Oh.
I'm intrigued how it worked, like just traveling and holidays with like 4 of you.
Yeah.
Like, did you do long road trips with all like 4 of you? Like, how did you get anywhere?
I will say, we didn't have much money. I remember often it would be a very long bus ride from like the airport to wherever we were staying.
Oh, right.
And like, because it would be one of those that whichever company we'd gone with, we went with like Monarch and these funny old companies that I don't use anymore. And they like stop at all these hotels. So I remember it was so hot and you'd be sat in the bus and we were all, they were very fortunate. We were very all patient and quite well behaved. This is probably when you go at 11 or 10, they're just in a better mood. But yeah, it was like, and we used to travel funny hours because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
So I'd say maybe the main thing was expense because there's 4 of you. So we'd always be travelling funny hours and we'd always be getting very long bus journeys to wherever we were going. I remember we'd all be like, oh God, now we've got to go on the bus. It's going to be like 3 hours. It might not have been 3 hours. This might be my young mind making it more. But it was hot and it was long.
But it was a very different dynamic, I presume, that, what, like, did you play games and stuff? Like, there was 4 of you, and like it's quite a big family unit, really.
Yeah.
You all going places,
and it was good fun in that. So we had a lot of independence because obviously you can't all fit in one room. So Mum and Dad would have a room. Then it was normally, I think, was it me and Laura or me and I don't know now. It was then you'd be 2 of you in one room and 2 of you in a room. So you'd have 3 rooms. And that was quite nice as like a young teenager to have your own space.
Yeah.
So that was always quite fun. And you were kind of treated semi like an adult because you had your own room, so you could kind of do what you wanted.
It's just so different for me because obviously being an only child, like my main memories of like traveling and holidays and stuff are kind of entertaining myself on long trips.
It's when I talk about car games and he's like, what do you mean car games? And I'm like, and I like introduced you like the alphabet game and see which you have to say an animal beginning with different letters.
Yeah. Whereas our car journeys, it would be my mum and dad listening to Radio 4 and the news or something, and I'd be sat in the back with like my portable CD player listening to like Harry Potter audio books.
Yeah.
Or later on, I think I had a portable DVD player with like a little folding
See, this shows
screen.
you were quite fancy. We didn't have those things.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
because there's only 2.5 years between us. They definitely would have been around at the same time.
Again, it was like, yeah, I don't know, early teens, and
I remember eventually getting a portable CD player, but it wasn't as fun because it was more like a community event in the car. Mum and Dad would often put on, this is when we're once again the 90s, they'd put on CDs. So this
Yeah.
is how like we'd all just sing along to Meatloaf or ABBA or,
yeah.
you know, the Carpenters or something.
Whereas I'd be watching like Star Wars prequels
Yeah.
on my little screen, just sat by myself with my headphones in. It's true. So like, you know, fast forwarding, we're out of the 90s now, back into current day.
Yeah.
We have Disney CDs that in the car that for a while but like these days,
We just put Spotify on my phone, don't
we
we?
just use Spotify. Like we don't need CDs anymore, but yeah, we still listen to Disney songs and things
do.
and on long journeys. And that's something we do to try and keep Lily entertained. So yeah, I suspect Lily's growing up and experience will be more similar to yours than it will be to mine.
But I think that's because it has my influence. So I'm like, let's listen to some songs.
Let's play a game.
Go on.
Yeah. So back into what we were talking about around parenting when you are away. There's all sorts of things, isn't there, really? We've mentioned about food and sugar and ice cream and stuff. There's also like the same thing with toys.
Yeah.
So when we were away in Wales, I don't know, somehow we ended up buying like a new toy for Lily every day.
I mean, it was quite good because there was a lot of charity shops.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting a lot better, not getting our toys, but we're getting a lot better at going, you can have a toy, but it's going to be this price. So it's going to be like one of the cheapest toys we have here.
Again, we're trying not to buy loads of stuff and trying to be good in terms of consumerism and the environment, but just sometimes you want to avoid a tantrum, you want to distract her, and
sometimes I feel this is when I think because I grew up, and once again, not terribly poor, but we didn't have money to spend.
Yeah.
I often get into the mindset, which it isn't terribly healthy, where I go, oh, but we could. Like, it's not going to hurt us. It's not, she really wants this thing and, like, it'll make the holiday fun. And I think because I'm not in the necessity of, well, we couldn't spend that money on the toy. And I don't know if it is a good mindset. But it's often, I have to go, well, will it hurt anyone? No, let's just get it. That she has really loved the puffin toy we got. But this is a problem. She shows a lot of love to her toys.
Well, this ties very much into the episode we did do around kind of the pressure to buy things as parents. And, when you're on holiday, you tend to do quite a lot of touristy things.
Yeah.
And it's in those places where, you're coming out and you're directed through a gift shop.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, please don't put the cuddly toys right in Lily's eye line. And then she's like, yes, I would like a puffin.
I would like a puffin. Yeah.
Or we're just bad parents and like halfway round, going around a National Trust place and halfway around we're like, she's losing her patience and we're like, just hang on and we'll buy you something at the gift shop. Okay, deal. Just bribing her.
Yeah, come on.
And then you get to the gift shop and realise it's like 20 quid for like a tiny little thing. It's like, oh.
It's good. I know it sounds stupid, but if she's been to similar places before, she's not as enamoured. So like with aquariums now, she's really uninterested in the toys because, and we haven't even bought that many, but because I think she's like, we've gone to quite a lot of aquariums. Yeah. She's like, well, this is like every other aquarium toy section I've seen. She's no longer taken by them.
True.
So in some ways, I think she's kind of become desensitised to certain things.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder what other people do on holidays. You know what? Like, I think we have very similar patterns of, I don't know whether it's just because we're, a bit middle class, but, when we're abroad, we do a lot of beach stuff and just sit and enjoy and swim and things. And
we'll maybe do like 2 trips total the whole time.
Little excursions.
Yeah, sometimes a boat trip and sometimes like where you go to the old town or something.
Yeah. You can tell we often go to like Greek and Spanish islands and things. So, you get the idea. And then UK holidays, we do all the like typical National Trust, English heritage, like gardens and
I mean, if there's a beach,
places.
we normally go to the beach.
Just the weather's not normally
it's
great.
Not normally great, no.
Like a
so
UK beach holiday.
In Wales, we had to really go right, these 2 days, it was the first 2 days, it's going to be sunny.
Yeah.
So we need to go to the beach these
Beach
2 days.
today. This is it. It's our only chance.
We've only just got here, but we need to go
We
to the beach.
don't care if you don't want to go. We are going.
Yeah. But the weather wasn't actually too bad for it being Wales.
We did okay.
We did quite well.
As things go.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I suppose the other thing that comes with all those touristy places is they often do cost quite a bit of money to go in, particularly if you're not members or if it's like an independent place or you know, whatever it is, a museum or something. And then having a toddler with us, like often you'll have spent all that money and you'll spend like half an hour, maybe 2 hours tops.
2 hours tops, yeah. 2 hours is pretty good.
yeah. And they're getting sick of it and want to go, or it's getting near food time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I suppose we're leaving now.
Yeah, like with Conway Castle, it was quite expensive. And for most people, I'm sure you could make...
There's quite a lot to do there.
Probably 3 hours out of it.
Yeah.
I think we were there for an hour.
Yeah. And we arrived early because, you know, we're up early.
Yeah.
And so therefore we got into it early and then we're basically leaving just as everyone else is arriving.
I mean, it is good. You miss a lot of crowds, but I don't think they had a cafe either, which is one of the reasons we quite like National Trust places. Is that
extends the day.
Extends the day because you can go to the cafe and then come back out and have a look at things.
Yeah.
Whereas at that point we're like, well, we need to find food now because you know it's toddler time. It's like 11:30. It's lunchtime. So
I mean, that is the advantage. You know, one of the things we do nearly always do on holidays is, as you already said, aquariums.
Yeah.
But also zoos.
Yeah.
Lily loves animals, so trying to find a zoo is always a great idea. And they typically have cafes and things.
Yeah.
So we can spend quite a lot of time there. So they feel
worth it.
Zoos are terribly expensive. Just I
yeah.
normally have to have a sit down after looking at those prices. Oh.
Honestly, some of them are the price of Disneyland.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like,
and I know people are like, well, Disneyland's overpriced. I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of my point.
Yeah,
I almost see that as it's quite a pricey thing going to Disneyland. And I get you've got to feed all the animals and everything. I do understand, but I feel like when we were young, zoos were not that expensive. And it might be they can keep them as in good conditions. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they are very expensive to go to a zoo now.
Yeah.
Shout out, though, we went to the Welsh Mountain Zoo.
Yeah, very good.
And that was reasonable. And it was a great little zoo.
Pretty big as well.
Yeah. So, shout out, if you ever go to Conway or that area, there's a good zoo around there.
We now kind of base holidays around where are the zoos.
Oh, we do, yeah.
So we're like, rather than looking for a destination, we're like, where has a zoo?
Where has a zoo or a big aquarium
which
that we
is
could
how
go?
we ended up in Blackpool, if you're
It
wondering
is.
why we ended up in Blackpool. So, darling co-host, how would you rate the summer holidays on a scale of ice cream to kid scream?
Well,
I thought I would try and, formalise this a little bit and provide 4 different categories. We'll see if this
Ooh.
sticks or not, and
Okay.
I might end up changing. So my 4 categories are currently titled Sleepless Dread down at the bottom, Illness Anxiety, A Screen Time Escape, or A Top of the Ladder Childhood Memory.
I think for children, it's the top of the ladder childhood memory. I think for parents, at the minute, I'm optimistic they all seem to be going well. I would say, had you asked me a year ago, I think, is it sleepless dread
Yeah.
about travelling? I think I would have had that.
We've had some horror stories, haven't we?
yeah.
I think holidays can be like a good escape, a screen time escape.
Because I would say, like,
You know, get out
our
of our
recent one
rhythm.
in Wales, she did really well the whole time.
But then again, often it's just, you know, parenting in a new location.
Yeah.
So, you know, part of it's just the typical, maybe I'd fall in illness anxiety. Do these make any sense at all?
I think they do. It just takes me a second to remember the 4 categories you've given me.
There we go. Well, stay tuned to next week to see if this rating system sticks around.
Exists still.
You know, what? I don't know what we're doing here. Whatever this is. Okay, time for some stories from our listeners that have been sent in. So shout out to Anna, who's been a guest on the podcast before, who has said that they went camping recently. And the kids screamed so loud at midnight that people came over to check in on them.
Oh, they thought something was wrong.
I can just imagine it. Another one that was sent to us was a story of how someone's gone to stay with their parents solo with the baby, and what's happened is they drove there 120 miles from home, and then they left something in the car that they needed, and then realised that it had gone home again.
Oh no!
I'm like, oh no, and I was saying, yeah, isn't it so relatable that it always feels like you forget something?
Yeah.
And then I got a message back to find out that after all that, she'd done like a 40-minute drive to go and get another one. Found out that actually, it was in the pram all along, so it wasn't in the car. So
that's such a me thing to do.
I literally responded and said that made me laugh because that's such a thing we would do.
It's yeah, definitely. Because I think we'd also panic and go, oh my goodness, we don't have it. We better go get another one. And I think often you'll panic. And also, once you have a toddler, things can go anywhere.
And then a plain horror story for us from someone that sent in a message to say they just got back from Malta and their little girl projectile vomiting on the plane all the way home will be a lasting memory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So feel for you.
My sister Laura, who lives in Plymouth, her youngest gets really travel sick. The last time they were on a plane, they kept giving him these little bags, and in the end they just gave him a bin bag because he was throwing them so much. Oh, no. They were like, we're just going to give him a bin bag because we're just filling tiny bags of sick, and it seems a bit ridiculous at this point.
There we go. If you have horror stories, do let us know. We'd love to hear them. Make the whole community feel better. It's all very relatable, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us in the pop-up tent today. We'll try and squish it back in the bag, see if we can get it in. Probably will never fit. Go back to your Lego, whatever it is you're up to on these summer holidays. Whether you've
wiping sick off you.
Yeah. If you're travelling, if you're abroad, if you're in the UK, or if you're just at home for the summer holidays, I hope you have a good time. I hope, even if it's just the same as normal, that you can find some escape and a bit of a break. I think that's the end, isn't it? We trail away into the nothingness. Goodbye. It's so professional, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really come up with an ending one of these days.